Hello everyone, GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs and our one and only, and of course favorite, recurring segment, Moment of Zeneca. Zeneca is back in the house, our favorite. We're going to talk all that's going on in the world of NFTs and Web3 today. There is so much. Zeneca and I think, are both relieved that we recognize like the top 10 best projects again. For a while there, a lot of the top 10 volume projects, we wouldn't know half of them. But we're back in somewhat chartered territory. But of course, there's all sorts of other news that is in some ways unchartered. We're going to talk about all of it. But first, we're going to hear a word from our sponsors and then back to a moment of Zeneca and my conversation with Zeneca 33.
Axie Infinity is a game universe filled with cute, fascinating little creatures called Axies that players can collect as pets. Players aim to battle, breed, collect, raise, and build kingdoms for their Axies. There are and will be many varied gaming experiences for Axies, many of them having players compete with each other using complex strategies and tactics to attain top rankings or be rewarded with coveted resources. Others will have them complete quests, defeat bosses, and unlock in-depth storylines. There are countless unique Axies that players can collect with varying body parts and experiences. The Axie universe is a player-owned economy where the players can truly own, buy, sell, and trade the resources they earn in the game through skilled gameplay and contributions to the ecosystem. It's a digital nation where people come together globally with their Axies to play, earn, and live. Join the Axie revolution at axieinfinity.com/bankless. Unstoppable Domains is the #1 provider of NFT domains. With domains ending in .crypto, .x, or .nft, Unstoppable Domains lets you replace your long, complex wallet address with a human-readable address. Using Unstoppable, you can verify the ownership over your NFTs, log into Web3 apps, and join tens of thousands of people using them as their Twitter usernames. With Unstoppable Domains, you can have all of your crypto addresses registered to one single domain. So it doesn't matter where crypto payments are coming from or where they're going. By registering all of your crypto addresses to your Unstoppable domain, all of that is taken care of in the back end. Better yet, with Unstoppable Domains, you don't have to worry about gas costs or renewal fees because you own it. Buy your domain and you can show it off as your new Twitter username. So you can get your name for as low as $5 at unstoppabledomains.com.
Okay, Zeneca, let's talk first macro picture, what's happening here. I have thoughts on this, but I'm sure you do too. Level set us, where are we in the market right now?
Yeah, we're in, I don't want to say uncharted territory, but the market is maturing and evolving in a direction that I'm not sure we've seen yet. And I mean that sort of, you alluded to it before about how we recognize the top 10, sort of the blue chips, they're doing great. They're doing fine. Bored Ape, Ecosystem, Doodles, Azuki, Cool Cats, Wilder Women. Prices are holding strong, trending upwards. It's excellent. And I think part of that is probably due to the ApeCoin drop. We saw just a ton of liquidity come into the market. And people were concerned, they were thinking, is this going to suck liquidity out? Are people going to sell their NFTs and buy ApeCoin? But I think that because it was listed on all these, exchanges, just on Coinbase and Binance, we have a lot of sort of people who may not have had exposure to NFTs now buying in because of Ape. And then the apes who are selling that coin are taking that, and some of that money is going into other NFT projects. And for a while, people were thinking and wondering, where is it going to go? Where is it going to flow to? And historically, we've seen it go, into the blue chips, and then this trickle down effect where, because if someone buys a blue chip, that means someone's selling one for 10 ETH, 20 ETH, 100 ETH, and then they're taking that money. Some of it's going out, but some of it's going into new projects. And we're definitely seeing the first part of that where, again, all the blue chips are thriving. I'm not sure that we've yet seen the trickle down effect to a real extent. Some of the mid-tier projects are doing okay, but especially the newer projects, we're not seeing too many crazy mint outs and then 1, 2, 3 ETH floor projects anymore. And that's probably a healthy thing, but it's just different to how we previously seen this whole trickle-down economic effect. And maybe it's too soon. Maybe in a couple of weeks, we will start to see that happen. But by and large, we're in a phase, I think, right now where the blue chips are doing great and they're thriving. And everyone else is sort of twiddling their thumbs. And is it going to come to us? What's going to happen? Yeah.
I wonder if the fact that we're coming off of a couple weeks of really the market being down and people being scared, I think precipitated by Ukraine, but also other things, has made people who they were trying to sell that doodle to have the stability of the ETH, right? And they're sort of like still a little trepidatious because of whether it's the macro geopolitical scene or whatever else, and they're sort of like not trying to now spend it anew. It's all speculation, of course, but that is really interesting that we're not seeing that kind of trickle down to these other projects.
I think as well, ETH is like pumping a little bit. It's over 3K, and whenever that happens, you do get a tendency of people to say, well, maybe it might be better holding on to my ETH rather than putting into NFTs, because what if ETH rips to 5K? What if it actually goes to 10K? You know, historically, when ETH does pump a lot, NFT prices tend to adjust a bit, and I think that's just another factor.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Because I would on the counter to this would be that you would maybe expect more people entering, but again, to your point, this is probably why ETH is pumping. You've seen stocks do well too. The Fed had an announcement here in the U.S. that was bullish. It basically rate hikes were what people were going to expect them to be, and so it didn't like overly freak the market out. And then you had some good news coming out of Ukraine in terms of, there's talks of a peace deal. Who knows what'll play out with that? But I think both those factors had led to sort of a surge in like stock market. So I think that's probably playing into the ETH price, but it hasn't really migrated over to, the non-blue chip NFT prices.
And I would say, like, despite that, it's not like sentiment is bad or low in the market. If we go back to, say, mid-Feb, people were pretty bearish, and, there was just things were not minting out as well, and prices were low and bleeding, even blue chips, and like people were just like not feeling great. Now it's sort of, I think we're on the uptick, and people seem a little happier, and obviously, things can change on a dime in this market. Like things were looking bearish, and then Yuga bought Punks and Meebits IP, and then dropped ApeCoin, and all of a sudden the market is full of excitement. And like a month before that, it was like the Pixelmon fiasco and the war in Ukraine, flip things the other way. And so who knows, maybe Coinbase Marketplace finally comes out and everyone is ecstatic, and it's actually the catalyst that we're all hoping for or thinking it might be. Or maybe some other negative news comes out and it just flips. It's such a precarious market. Speaking
of Yuga and that big news, you and I actually haven't talked about it. You and I have both talked about it individually. You even came on, I think, a Bankless panel to talk about it. So I don't want to overly stay here. And actually one of the things I'm excited to chat about is some of the news we've had even since this about ApeCoin. But Yuga obviously bought Punks, bought Meebits, and then dropped ApeCoin. Your take, your quick take, since we don't want to stay here for too long.
It's extremely interesting more than anything else. I think, we're seeing this first massive acquisition of one NFT brand acquiring another, and not just that, the number one acquiring the number two, or the number two acquiring the number one. I think it was fairly inevitable that we would see more of these mergers or acquisitions in the space, but I'm not sure that anyone expected the first big one to be on this scale. Yeah.
I had tweeted that and, kind of retweeted this when this happened. I tweeted back in January, like, when do we start to see major NFT projects buying up other projects to add to their IP portfolio? But in my head, it was very much, I would have anticipated a Yuga Labs doing the buying.
Yeah.
I didn't anticipate they were going to it's not a merger, but like merge in the sense that it's the two behemoths. I thought they would buy up maybe smaller IP, or, like they're going to buy up a Deadheads or, whatever. Sorry, Deadheads. I don't know. Probably not for sale, but you get my point.
I think one note on this, I think it's opened up this really interesting dialogue when now people are a lot more aware of the intellectual property rights of their NFTs. And like before that, it was just sort of like, Lava Labs is DMCAing people, and apes have full commercial rights. Cool. We're not really going to care too much into it. But then we look at, well, who actually owns the intellectual property of your NFT? When you own an NFT, you don't necessarily own that IP, and then you're still beholden to a company. So we talk about true digital ownership a lot, but then there's this disconnect when it's like, well, you own it, but you don't own the IP. And then now people are starting to it's this new dialogue that's opening up, which I find really interesting, fascinating. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more in future events.
It's driven folks into the arms of CCO. You were saying your feed is just dominated by DC investor going off and talking about how he'll only buy CCO projects moving forward. And
it's just fascinating.
It is. And we're holding back here in part because I do want to, I've said it on the pod before, I do want to do like a CCO panel and really bring in the the CCO maximalists and maybe some of its slightly bigger detractors and have a conversation around it, because I think it's critical to what's happening in the space. Time Magazine is accepting ApeCoin for digital subscriptions. I think this is a really big deal.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, obviously Time has been in the space a lot lately, but this is not an NFT thing they're doing. This is their magazine, right? Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's the digital subscriptions to their magazine. So you can't buy,
Well, you can't go to the
newsstand. But who's buying, who buys physical magazines at this point anyway?
Yeah.
This is the race to the metaverse. And of course, we're not going to have one metaverse and yada, yada, caveats. But like, that is what we're talking about. And it's the race to be metaverse money, or one of the top metaverse monies, right? Sand is in that race. Mana is in that race. I think you can argue these other project coins are in that race. I don't know that as explicitly so. But, Ape has now set the bar, and I don't know. I almost feel like this has been under talked about. Maybe it's being talked about on Twitter in places that I'm not seeing as much. But I think this is a really big deal, because Time is a serious company, and this could lead, I don't know if it'll lead to other companies making the same decision, but it like makes the water warm for that. Should other major brands that aren't just Web3 brands want to start accepting altcoins, I think it's really interesting.
I think it is too. I think obviously it's huge. It's Time Magazine and they're accepting ApeCoin. It's a great utility use case for ApeCoin. I'm just like, as an Ape holder and fan and big fan of Yuga, I'm just like curious as like, do we need another currency for like, why couldn't they just use ETH? Like, it seems like I think ApeCoin is going to be great for governance and for perhaps within the Ape ecosystem. And obviously this is great for ApeCoin as well. It's just like expanding it. But I don't envision us living in a future when people are like, if you go to subscribe to Time, you have like 10 different currency. Maybe we will. Maybe you can pay in whatever currency you want. But yeah.
I asked this question to John Rogers last week on the show, and he was like, it's not scalable. I wasn't even thinking about it in the real world. I was asking about it in Web3, like, will the metaverse have 10 trillion different currencies? Because you could see quick exchanges in the metaverse where you can quickly, if you have Banana Coin because you're in the Cyberkongs area, and you can quickly convert that to ApeCoin for the Ape area. John's opinion was still like, no, that's not scalable. I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Are we living in just like a completely, like there's a totally multi-coin universe or not? To your point about, do we really need another coin? I recorded a conversation yesterday with somebody whose opinion was like, Ape did this wrong, Bored Ape did this wrong. They can get away with doing it wrong, but other projects will start to copy them. And he was like, they did it wrong because they didn't launch at least immediately with utility, and it's going to lead a ton of other projects to just drop coins without utility, and it's going to tank their projects. And I don't think we're going to have a trillion coins. I think there will be a couple dominant players, and I understand the impulse for a project, especially a project like a Bored Ape, to want to throw their hat in that ring and build the dominant brand ecosystem. I mean, what a branding play. Like, if the US dollar was like the Nike,
yeah.
Like, holy shit.
It's huge.
And so I understand the impulse there, but I do think you have to be something of a Bored Ape size to be able to get away with it.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard that a few times over the last couple of weeks since they drop it. They're like, people say, oh, well, now every project is going to drop their own coin and there's going to be no utility and it's not going to go well. That's already been happening. If we go back to like September last year, we saw a flood of ERC20 tokens come on the market, and projects were launching with whether it's a DAO or some staking element, and just constantly. And, Yuga even came out and said that, we are planning a token, but because the apes were like, well, when are we getting one? And they were like, well, we're going to do it right. We're going to take our time. So Q1 next year, which was like 5-6 months away. But in the interim, we've seen so many projects launch with a token, launch a token that it just goes to zero because there's no utility, or the utility is, well, you can use it to breed more NFTs that, it's just like almost Ponzi-nomics. If there's no demand for these new NFTs, like obviously that's a good use case if there's demand. Like if all of a sudden you can use ApeCoin to create a new NFT that's part of the BAYC ecosystem, that's enormous, But And like Cyberkongs did that well because, you know, they had the Genesis Kongs and then the babies, and there was demand to be part of their ecosystem. But for brand new projects that launch with a coin, it's nothing new. And I think we're going to probably see an increase in amount of that just because of Ape. And most of them are probably just going to be worthless. Yeah.
Some of the coin launching, I feel like, is what's the word I'm looking for? Like genuinely, they come by it genuinely from a governance standpoint of wanting to be able to stake or delegate votes, and that's much easier to do with an ERC20 than it is with a 721. I know in other projects I'm working with, we're dealing with that right now. Like, do we do a token simply purely for governance so that it can be staked to other members to have a greater vote or this and that? But when you're trying to make it an ecosystem coin and you're not of the scale of Bored Apes, what do you think of Milk Gold? Do you have thoughts on that?
Milk Gold?
Cool Cats tokens. So Cool Cats launched like their Milk token and their Gold token.
I didn't even know they had a Gold token. I know Milk. I'm just in my mind.
They're
Cool
both
Cats
connected to the Cool Pets system.
In my mind, the whole thing is on pause because, you know, they're having issues with Polygon or Layer 2, and I haven't been following it. I think it sounded, when I first heard about it and was hearing about it like leading up to the launch, so prior to January, it sounded like they had really cool plans and utility, and it was a well thought out ecosystem. Now I honestly haven't been following it, but I could see them doing it in, again, if it's it's coming with a blockchain game, there's real utility maybe. And if the game is fun and people want to play it, then it can work. Yeah.
Moving on, unless there was other things you wanted to say on that, Meta Angels, our kind of mutual friend at this point, Allison and Alex, who launched Meta Angels, they came out with an announcement that they've partnered with Rarible. They were the launch partner for Rarible on this Meta Angels specific marketplace. It looks like what Rarible is doing is making a play to like white label marketplaces and partner with projects so that they can have their own project specific marketplace. I think this is awesome.
Yeah.
Would love to hear your initial take on it, and then I can maybe say a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's super smart. I think a lot of people have long been saying, myself included, that the end game for marketplaces is probably project-specific marketplaces where you can, say what you want about Lava Labs, but the buying experience of CryptoPunks on their website is fantastic. You can sort by traits. It's like optimized for their collection. And I think as we go on, we're going to see more and more of that. OpenSea is, it's a great catch-all marketplace, but it's not like if you want to buy and sell gaming assets, there's probably a better way to view them in a 3D environment and all that kind of stuff. Or just, there's just different collections have different ways of showing their traits. Art blocks and art, is probably better viewed in a different experience. So yeah, I do think the end game is individual marketplaces, and Rarible is, coming up with this infrastructure, I guess, where they can partner with projects or white label them, as you said, allow them to say, have their own marketplace with lower fees than OpenSea. I believe it's 2% instead of 2.5. And then I can't remember exactly. Those fees go to Meta Angels instead, right? Yeah.
So it's a 2% fee, and then a percent of that fee also goes to their scholarship fund. I have it. Let me pull it up. It's their, hold on. I was joking about this with you earlier, but Allison and the Meta Angels team sent me like I was like, hey, I want to talk about the marketplace. Like, here's a specific question I have. And they were like, here's this like incredibly well thought out document that answers any question anybody could have about. I was like, this is why we're bullish on Meta Angels.
They're such professionals.
These are like real humans who have built real businesses. Okay, so angel grants. So they are giving no strings attached grants on a weekly basis of like depending on the price of ETH, about a quarter of an ETH basically to, I think, artists, community members who apply, and basically the only criteria for this grant is like you are doing something that will have a positive impact on like your or other lives, which is like a beautifully broad thing. So they're basically giving, if with ETH at so they're giving a quarter of an ETH out weekly, and so a percentage of this 2% fee goes into that fund that will be given back out to community members. Yeah,
and it's awesome. It's just like if you're gonna trade Meta Angel in the secondary market and you're bullish on there's no reason not to use this marketplace now. It's lower fees than OpenSea, plus 0.5%, I believe, goes to this fund, which helps people. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it actually felt dovetailed to me with the ApeCoin thing in the sense that I think we're seeing projects almost like exert their power more. Like Bored Ape made the point, like metaverses right now are supposed to be all cool, but like they're actually just boring. Like,
Yeah.
and marketplaces, like the reason we go to marketplaces are the projects, right? The reason right now to be in the metaverse would be the games and or the community and the projects. And so these projects, I think, are sort of looking up and being like, well, like, fuck it, we're the fuel for this whole thing that's happening, you know? Like, gaming isn't quite at the point yet where the blockchain gaming scene isn't good enough yet for that to be kind of standing on its own. So the reason we're all here at these projects, it's brand, it's IP right now. That's still the very dominant force in NFTs. And so it sort of feels, like projects sort of stepping into themselves. Bored Ape's like, we're just building our own metaverse. You're here for us anyways. Meta Angels is like, here's our marketplace. Again, you're here for us anyways. And I think that's interesting. And I like that vibe.
Yeah.
So.
And I think Bored Apes, part of one of their proposals is they want to build their own marketplace as well. Because, I mean, if you look at the top 10 projects by volume, sometimes the top 5. The top 5, I think at a point last week, were all Yuga Labs. It was Punks, Meebits, Mutant Apes, Bored Apes, and Kennel Club Dogs. And it's just like, all of that volume, OpenSea is taking 2.5%. All that Yuga has to do, I mean, I say all, it's not easy to do, but you know, if/when they do it, that 2.5% can either go to Yuga, it can go to the Ape DAO or the Ape Foundation, it can go back to the buyers and sellers. It's just, that's money that can stay within the Ape ecosystem, and more projects are recognizing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Polygon is Ethereum's largest and most vibrant scaling solution to date. With millions of monthly users and all of the biggest DeFi apps, the Polygon ecosystem has turned into a blossoming metropolis of DeFi activity. Transactions on Polygon are quick and cheap, allowing users the freedom to achieve their DeFi goals, all while being economically anchored to Ethereum. But Polygon isn't just the proof-of-stake sidechain. The Polygon team is building a suite of scaling solutions, including Polygon Hermes, Maiden, Nightfall, and Zero, all with different design choices in order to be optimized for all possible crypto use cases. If you're a developer who wants to build on the Polygon ecosystem, go to the link in the show notes to check out their fantastic documentation. And if you're a user who just wants to experience fast and cheap DeFi, you can bridge over your ETH or other tokens and start playing around with any of the thousands of applications that are available on Polygon. Everyone is talking about the metaverse these days, and we're all still trying to figure out what it actually is, because everyone is looking for how to get exposure to it. That is why a metaverse index fund is so important, because in such a young market, an index can give you broad exposure to all the various players who are building out all these digital worlds that will ultimately become the metaverse. And that's why you should check out the Metaverse Index from the Index Co-op. The Metaverse Index gives you simple, easy, and safe one-click exposure to the emerging open metaverse trend. The MVI Index contains some of the biggest metaverse projects out there, including Axie Infinity, Decentraland, Illuvium, and more. So join thousands of holders who have already trusted nearly $50 million to the MVI Index. And if you buy $500 of MVI on the Dharma app, you can receive $50 worth of ETH on the Polygon network. There's a link in the show notes for you to click so you can get started on your journey into the metaverse.
Okay, Invisible Friends announced a partnership with Kith. I was really excited about this. I feel like we're the perfect two halves of a whole, which is I have a little bit of a background on Kith. I feel like you obviously follow Invisible Friends, but you, I think, are even closer to Invisible Friends than I am. So maybe we can fill in each other's gaps here. I'll kind of kick off with some frame setting. So hints of this, I think, started actually in December. There was a COOP public exchange where somebody, I think just a random person on Twitter, had retweeted something of Invisible Friends being like, you know, Kith collab, or can we get an Invisible Friends like draped in Kith or something? And then the Invisible Friends team retweeted it and were like, anytime, we'd love to talk to them. Ronnie Fleeg, who's did I pronounce it? Yeah, Ronnie Fleeg, who's the founder of Kith, then responded to that Invisible Friends tweet and was like, yo, like follow me, DM me, or so I can DM you, let's chat. So that was back in December. They then had this announcement, I think this past week, that they'd be partnering, or maybe it was last week, they'd be partnering up. And I really like this. Kith is a really, it's a streetwear brand, and I think they've done an exceptional job sort of building over the years, really through very strategic partnerships and a strong commitment to quality. I don't know if this is still true, but there was at one point, I know, the brand had grown tremendously, and they still only had like their 2 original locations in Brooklyn and Manhattan. And he was like very just intentional about not wanting to like oversaturate the market with the brand, and so it's just been really a focus on quality. I also was doing some digging on them, and they used to do fun things in their stores, which again they may or may not still do. I kind of tracked some of the Kith stuff a number of years ago, where they had like a cereal bar, like where they had like cereal and frozen treats and whatever, so that kids or teenagers who maybe couldn't afford the clothing at that point would still come in and like spend time and like are surrounded by their brand. And then they had a couple like more accessible price point items like chocolates or they did some food stuff that would have little tickets in them, and if you collected 4 of them you could redeem it for like a Kith Nike branded tennis ball, for example. So this idea of redeemables, this idea of collectibles, they've been doing this for truly the whole lifespan of the brand. Community's always been a focus for them. But I was looking, and I don't think they have made an explicit play into NFTs before this collab with Invisible Friends. So that's why, again, I'm excited because I'm a bit of a Kith fan, and I think they've done, an amazing job building their brand. Now that I've given you that that background, what are your thoughts? And tell us what's up with Invisible Friends these days.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a perfect collab for Invisible Friends. Invisible Friends it's so focused on quality over quantity. I think that they have really made a point to, I mean, the project had insane hype when it launched. They had hundreds of thousands of people following them on Twitter and in Discord. But if you go back, 6 months ago, the artist Marcus I remember a tweet of his. He said, this is the culmination of 20 years work and like my life's work. And he spent half a year plus on this specific drop, and he was just like, I'm not going to release it until it's perfect. It's going to be delayed and delayed and delayed until it's perfect. We want to ensure that everyone is happy. They did 5,000. They could have sold 50,000 if they wanted to, but they were like, we're going to keep the collection size small. We're going to ensure the quality. And it sounds like they're taking that same approach to their partners and their partnerships, and they're not just partnering with anyone. Presumably that they're getting thousands of offers just all the time because they're such a hyped collection. And I think the community it's really dedicated and passionate and really like enjoys the brand already, which is amazing because it's a relatively new brand. And I think this partnership, from what I'm not familiar with Kith, or at least I wasn't before this, but it sounds like it's a pretty perfect blend. Do we know what it involves, like the partnership?
We don't have details, and they did tweet out, though, they gave Ronnie Feig, the founder of Kith, a
honorary,
like special honorary, invisible friend, and they tweeted that out. So
it looks awesome.
We'll be excited to see the details, but I'm sure I feel like this will be an incredibly well executed partnership, given the similarities in terms of focus on quality, focus on brand that both of these partners really have exhibited thus far. So
I think also Invisible Friends it's a lot of people were saying it's going to go the way of Hatebeast, it's going to go the way of Mecha. It's like this super hype launch that pre-reveal goes up to like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ETH, and then the others they dropped. I think Mecha is 0.5 or something or lower, and Hape is between 1 and 2. But it's been several weeks now, and it's holding strong at around 7 ETH. And to me that's enough of a sign that it's different.
I like the art so much better to me.
Yeah.
Even before the launch, or even before like reveals, and like, well, I guess we really didn't know with some of these others, but like the art is just way cooler in my opinion. It has way more like heart and soul. You can tell that you can see a brand coming out of this. I can't see a brand out of Hatebeast or Mecha. And so this to me is this is more like an Azuki in my opinion, in terms of like there's a real feel and a vibe to the thing.
For sure.
Okay, let's this is kind of a silly topic, but I want to talk about it, which is this Pepe scandal. Matt Fury, creator of Pepe the Frog, getting sued. Have you been following this?
I have not been following it. I saw it in the notes, and it sounds fascinating to me.
I feel like there's some meta-analysis that could be given here. I have not figured out what it is, so I'm going to tell you the story, and maybe you have the meta-analysis. In short, somebody, a buyer, I think his last name's Thayer, thought he was buying like a one-of-one rare Pepe. It's like this image of, it was an NFT of Pepe's like behind, basically. It's like his butt sticking out of water. And but it was kind of artistic, and he paid $500,000 for this rare one-of-one NFT Pepe. And then Matt Fury goes and releases like 46 other copies of this exact same image like for free. And so of course the value of this NFT that had been, he'd bought it at auction for $500,000 goes down to like over $500,000, goes down to like 30, like below $30,000. And so the buyer is suing Matt Fury for, really damages and all the rest of it.
That's wild.
Thoughts, meta-analysis?
Yeah, I mean,
does it say anything about the world today?
It's such an interesting thing. I think it goes to show just how new, like how early we are and how new all of this is, because this is not something that is entirely unpredictable. We could have foreseen that an artist might release like new editions of something that sold really well just to make more money. But I think if they bought the NFT, there's at least a provenance that that's the first one. So it's obviously not a good look or move by Matt to just release a bunch more editions of the exact same thing that was a one of one. But we have the provenance. We know which is the first. We know, I don't know. I think, again, anyone could right click save it. Anyone could have that image and it's not like there's value to it. And so I think that in a perfect world, the market would attribute significantly less value to these copies, and then the original that was sold at auction sooner has the real value, and that's like the first. And then these are, but again, it comes down to like, does Matt say, well, these are in his mind all equal, all official, and it's a really interesting thing, and I'm curious to see how it works. And there's still, it seems like there is still value being given to it in the sense that it's still, I think, valued at like $30,000, which is nothing to kind of sneeze at, but it's down from half a million.
Yeah. It was reminding me, not because it's actually necessarily all that similar, but we had sort of two back-to-back stories where you had that person who spent $500,000 the same on Tom Brady's last like football.
Yeah.
And then Brady's like, actually, I'm back.
I'm back. Yeah.
And I think Brady actually, I think, posted on Instagram like the story about the guy who spent the $500,000 and then tweeted at FTX and was like, hey, can we get this guy? Can we get this guy a Bitcoin, or can we get this guy a donation of Bitcoin? I don't know. He was he was trying to get FTX to help the guy out. Okay, Rhianna filed trademarks for NFTs in the metaverse. Not much to be said here. Just want to go through some interesting news that I saw in the world of
Web3.
Call it celebrity. Moving into Web3. So that was exciting. If there was one celebrity you would want to see move into NFTs in the metaverse, which celebrity would that be for you?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I've never really been huge on following celebrities, but
well, maybe it's a poker player. Like, is it?
There's enough poker players in this space already, and the ones that could sell NFTs probably have had enough success and don't need the money. Also, or are like just cash grabbing and would add no real value. I got no one.
All right.
Who would you want to see?
Humongously lame answer. Well, I don't necessarily, there's nobody that comes to mind for me of like, I want you to issue NFTs and I would go buy it. Though maybe Taylor Swift, she would probably be high up there. But there would be people, truthfully, a lot of the, like, I'm a huge Reese Witherspoon fan. I think she's both talented and I love her films. And I also think she's super bright and she's such an incredibly intelligent businesswoman. So like that excited me to see her, to know that she's gotten into it. Like for me, it's more about like the validation of, these people that I actually think are very smart business people on top of being celebrity that are getting in. And I think so many of the people that I respect, I mean, Mindy Kaling has now tweeted about it at this point. Shonda Rhimes, I think, is interested in it. So a lot of for me, like women that I have admired because I think they deserve their celebrity for being smart.
Yeah, no, I think
that's a weird thing to say, but have gotten in. Taylor Swift, I guess, would be the one. Okay, speaking of celebrities and entering, Patrick Mahomes signed a deal with NFL All Day. Yeah, this is hilarious. I found out you don't know who Patrick Mahomes is. I was like, before this call, I was like, Zanika, do you have anything interesting to say about Patrick Mahomes getting in? And you were like, I literally don't know who Patrick Mahomes is.
I have no idea who that is. And now I know because you told me he's an NFL player.
Yeah, he's like
he's good or something.
Debate, but arguably like the best quarterback in the NFL right now. He's the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. So yeah, that's hilarious. You were giving me Vitalik not knowing about Tom Brady vibes. I was like, oh, okay. It's fair. You're not in the States. Not that everybody in the States even knows who Patrick Mahomes is, but like you haven't.
I'm not in the States,
really,
or am I into sports? So yeah.
Yeah. Double whammy. Okay. Nothing to say there. Again, news that I'm flagging. Some upcoming drops. I thought it would be interesting to talk about really on like the art, like pure art side. You have FVCKRENDER, Takashi Murakami, and XCopy all coming out with drops, I think imminently. FVCKRENDER's
claiming
sort
now.
of the process for getting one of his has already really started. Do you have one that you're most excited about that you want to start with, or?
They're all very exciting, honestly. 3 very prolific, high-profile, fantastic artists. I think XCopy is just, to me, I own 0 XCopy, and there's an open edition on Nifty Gateway, I think, for 10 minutes for 1 ETH, or like 1 ETH equivalent. It's like $3,000. And I'm curious to see how that goes. How many are going to sell? Open editions are always a little bit scary. They could just sell tens of thousands of these things, and we say that's going to be so much money, but then you look at like pack and how much that pack can sell. But yeah, that one to me is just most exciting because I would like to get my hands on at least one. Yeah. So
you think you will participate in this open edition? Open edition meaning like it'll sell as many as sell in those 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So you don't have control or insight into the supply going into it.
Yeah. I think I'll buy at least one.
Okay.
Just to have an XCopy, just because I love XCopy. Yeah.
What do you love about XCopy?
I love the art style, stylistically. When I first saw it, I didn't appeal to me that much, but it's like really growing on me over time. And I love just the history and the story of XCopy and how he came to be in this space. And I appreciate how digitally native the art style is. So it's not just a still image. It's just like very clearly. You couldn't create this with oil on canvas or something like that. This is an NFT. This is a digital piece of art. Yeah.
Well, and he's been, he's super, super OG as a digital artist. And
exactly.
I've been kind of digging into learning more about him because I agree. Like I can't fully appreciate the art until I kind of understand the history. And as I've dove more into, do we know if XCopy's male? Is it he?
I am unsure.
Okay. I'm using that pronoun. I'm sorry if it's wrong or I shouldn't be, but his work is like so evocative and chaotic and like, intense. And I have come to really appreciate that in a way when I like first joined the NFT space and was like, what? Like, why is this the thing? And I like, now I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I get it now. The FVCKRENDER avatars are coming out. There's like this 4 process redemption or there's 4 different stages of, or opportunities to get essence, I believe, which is ultimately what you'll redeem for one of these avatars. I think they're selling right now. These redemption pieces are selling, or I'm sorry, the essence pieces, which you can redeem for the avatars, are available on OpenSea. It looks like for 0.8, because I think some early.
If you had the crystals, you could redeem the crystals. Or not redeem the crystals. You could, if you had a crystal, you had a free claim to get the essence 1 for 1. And then some people are taking that essence and selling it for around 1 ETH. 0.8 to 1 ETH. And then, the essence will be used to mint the avatar. And
then my favorite, honestly, of all 3 of these, Takashi Murakami. I really do love Takashi's work.
Yeah.
And limited details, I think, on this. He's been teasing Murakami flowers. I mean, he's done a lot of work with flowers in the past, and we know they're the sort of this digital looking flower. I couldn't find details on exactly when it's dropping. He's been talking about it, I think, since January or February. We got a new detail, I think, in like a couple weeks ago about it, but no like specific launch date.
All priced as far as I'm aware. We don't know.
All priced. Say it again.
No,
price.
We don't know the price. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for it as well.
Yeah.
I think that I'm a fan of his as well, and the flowers they look cool. They're very digital looking, like pixelated type style. Definitely want to keep an eye on as well.
The details we got was that I think it's like CloneX, right? If you're in basically the artifact ecosystem, you're not allow listed or you're not sort of entitled to one of these. But if you hold previous Murakami work, I think you are. So that was disappointing, I know, to artifact fans.
Yeah.
Here we go. Them's the breaks.
Artifact
fans are
not
right. Crying.
Yeah, you're probably
you're
all
doing
right.
pretty well. Yeah, artifact holders. Okay, last one. This is maybe a quick episode, unless we have other things we want to sort of off the cuff talk about, but the World of Women Galaxy drop, do we have a date there? End of this month?
I don't think we have an exact date. It's a little light on details, but I would imagine we're getting close to launch time. So they've been giving out, I think they announced it about 2 weeks ago, and they've been giving out mint list, allow list spots to various communities. And there's just like this massive grind for these mint list spots because people are viewing it as, you know, the companion drop to World of Women. World of Women floor is like 10, 12, 13 ETH. And so presumably these are going to be valuable, but we don't know what the price is going to be as far as I'm aware. We don't know how much these are going to cost. So yeah.
They've basically just dropped lore and the fact that this is like the World of Women, the original characters have sort of found another planet, and there are these other women on this other planet. I believe the lore. I was reading it a little while back, and so this is this new set of characters in this ecosystem. I mean, it's interesting. Hello Sunshine, Reese Witherspoon's obviously announced that her production company is partnering with them to create IP. You know, they have the IP, but to create actual stories out of the World of Women characters. I don't think we have many details on that, but that's exciting. I wonder if the Galaxy characters will play a role in that. On and on. It's very well done. If you go to the World of Women, I think if you look at like the Galaxy page on the World of Women site, it's evocative. I'm like, oh, cool. There's a story here. A bunch of women going into space, finding other women. Like, hell yeah. So I am pumped about it, and I will be closely watching other announcements on it. I mean, of course, you have this like slew of you have all like the celebrity women who are into this, like, you know, coming out for it. Gwyneth Paltrow is giving away allow list spots, and Eva Longoria was giving away allow list spots, and it is really wild. It's
it's going to be it's one of the most hyped things I think I've seen in a while, because it's not often that you see these blue chip projects come out with a companion drop. You know, it's like, yeah. And I think we're very unclear on details. Like, we don't know the mint price. We don't know the quantity. A lot of people are speculating it's going to be 20K, 10K, you know, 1-to-1 free claim for holders, and then 10K. But again, we don't know. We don't know a lot, but it sounds like it's going to be a smashing success. We have seen some sneak peeks of the art, and it does look pretty cool. It's very in style.
Yeah, and Yam is so talented. And awesome, Zeneca. You are the best. We will be back with you in a couple of weeks. And thanks as always for sharing your wisdom and insight into this wild world and ride that we are on.
No, thank you so much for having me. I learned about who Patrick Mahomes is. Malone?
Mahomes, yeah. Patrick is Mahomey. That's like a thing, a joke. You're like, this is why I don't engage in pop culture or sports. All right. Well, I love it. We will talk again soon.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.